Yeah, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
Good?
Wanna just start?
Oh, sorry. Hi, everybody. So welcome to today's session. Before we begin, I'm just going to kind of go over what we're going to talk about in today's session, just give like a little outline of what we're going to do. And if we get off track a little bit, if something needs to be talked about more in depth, that's okay. If there's something that we miss, we can just kind of go through that next week. But this is just sort of a brief outline just so that you guys are aware of kind of what the expectation will be today and what we'll be talking about. So first we're just gonna do a little check-in. I'll give a little introduction about myself and give some reminders. We're just gonna talk then a little bit about how our week has been. We're gonna do an activity. We're gonna be talking about focus today. So we're gonna do a mindfulness activity kind of similar to Romina's exercise last week, but a little different, and we'll talk about that more when we get to the activity. Then we're going to talk about how that exercise was for us. And since we're sort of moving into the working stage of our group sessions now, we're going to focus a little bit on our goals that we set the first week. So we're going to be talking about some goal setting. Then we're going to do a second activity related to our goals. And then we'll just do a little wrap up, and I'll give you the homework for this week, and we'll just say our goodbyes. So like I said before we begin, I'm just going to give a little introduction about myself. So my name is Sarah Heptich. I've been working at Booth for a couple of years now, and working with students is kind of my happy place. I love working with students, so this topic is really of interest to me. Stress and stress management. I think stress is something that everyone faces, so I think it's a really good topic, and I think it's important that we talk about these things as students. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to working with you guys today. Just a few kind of housekeeping reminders. I just want to remind you guys of the contract that we made the first week, like our rules, just so we can keep that in mind while we're talking to each other and interacting with each other. So our rules are posted here from the first week. So our rules are not speaking over other people, so just being respectful of when other people are talking and trying our best not to interrupt, but to let everybody have their time. We're not going to judge other people's story or other people's experience. We're just going to be respectful of everyone's feelings and everyone's emotions, and we're going to be encouraging and positive. So rather than trying to sort of give advice or talk people down, we're going to try our best to encourage and have empathy and relate to other people. We're going to try to be on time, which we were all on time today, so good job. No cell phones, just as it's a distraction when we're trying to interact with each other to have our cell phones. And my apologies, I'm going to use my cell phone for one of the activities, but it's just through an app, so we just don't want to pull out our cell phones to be texting or becoming distracted from what's happening. And the last one is participation. So if people don't feel comfortable sharing, we want to respect that as well, because one of our main priorities is to be respectful, but we should be at a point now where we're starting to feel more comfortable with each other, and if that's not the case, then we can surely work through that and talk about that. But we're going to try our best to be open and just try to open up when we can. So those are sort of our rules for this session. Also confidentiality, I know we mentioned that in the first session, but just as a reminder, whatever we talk about today, we're just going to try to keep it here rather than taking that home and talking about it outside of here, because as Melissa said in the first session, it can be a small world, and we don't want kind of our business getting shared with other people that are not a part of the group. And the last thing before we move on is just I want to encourage you all to speak, and just remind you that it's not just me who can speak. If we have insight or encouragement that we want to offer to another student, please feel free to do that when it's time. And we want to be having good discussions and that sort of thing. So, and you guys will get bored of my voice really quick, so just be open to speaking and willing to do that if you have something to say. So I just want to talk a little bit now about how our week has been. So I'm going to ask everybody to give me their I like to call it personal weather status. So we're just going to each go around the circle and just kind of go through our week and talk about how our weather status has been. So whether our week has been what we would describe as cloudy or sunny or rainy, foggy, and just sort of describe how your week has been, what has made you feel, those sort of different things. And yeah, we'll just go around the circle. So whoever wants to go first, feel free to do that, and hopefully we all can share. Who would like to go first? I can always go first to sort of lighten the air. So my personal weather status for the week, there was definitely some sunny moments throughout the week. Some really good things happened. I got a couple of marks back from school that were really encouraging for me. I had some good time with my family, and I got a lot of work done. I was really productive. It was my first week in my new job, so that was really fun for me and just learning new things. It was also, I would say, a little cloudy. I would say that just because as exciting as a new job is, there's stress with that. And I just feel cloudy kind of reminds me of like something being over my head. And, my assistant manager was trying to coach me in my new job, so she was kind of watching everything that I was doing, and she was over my head a little bit. So that was kind of intimidating for me. So as fun as it was getting a new job, it was somewhat intimidating. But otherwise, I had a pretty sunny week. Would you like to share with us, Stefan, how your week has been?
No, I'll go last.
You go last?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
I'll share.
Okay, sure.
My week was a bit cloudy, busy with the school. Something's going on our home, so it was a bit stressful. And maybe later I'll share a bit more about that, but
Okay.
that's all describe my week as.
Okay, sure. So overall, you think your week was pretty cloudy, a bit stressful. Okay, thanks for sharing, Julie.
Yeah, no problem.
Would you like to share with us next, Bryn?
Sure. I would say my week was mostly sunny with some sun showers in there.
Also sunshine.
Like, there's lots of good things happening in life, at school and at home and with my friends and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I guess with the little bits of rain, some people I know got some bad news, which was a little bit too bad to hear about.
Mm.
And I was sick for a little while too, so that's just not ideal, but it wasn't too bad, so
Okay. So overall, pretty sunny.
pretty sunny.
A little bit of rain in there with some bad news, but
Yeah,
overall.
but like pretty short-lived.
Mhm.
It doesn't affect the overall of my life, I would say.
Okay, great. Thank you for
Mhm.
sharing, Bryn. And Melissa, would you be willing to share next?
Sure. I would have to say my week was probably pretty stormy, but that's
Mm.
because I'm a procrastinator. And so all the assignments that are due, I know you had everything due before reading week, but I had one pushed into reading week, and so I didn't even finish it. So there's that. And then just we were moving, and just with kids and work, and it was pretty stormy,
Mm-hmm.
pretty stressful.
Yeah, it sounds like you've had a really overwhelming week.
Mhm.
Lots of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Almost a bit chaotic, like not
Oh,
knowing,
yeah.
being pulled in a bunch of directions.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
Mm.
for sure.
that's hard. And I know you mentioned that, procrastinating sometimes affects that a little bit. And we're gonna kind of look at some techniques today that we can use. Because I know in our first session, a lot of us sort of talked about how we can be procrastinators, or when we try to use our time wisely, we get distracted. So we're gonna look at some things that we can do to maybe put priorities in our life and figure out what things need to get done first, and then how we're gonna kind of fit that into the time that we do have. So hopefully those exercises will be helpful to you.
Yeah, I hope so.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Okay, and Emily, would you like to share how your week was?
Sure. It was stormy, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like with hail.
Mm.
I got a B on assignment, which was really stressful for me because I like perfection. And it was just, yeah, I don't really want to say anything else about why it was stormy. So.
Okay. Well, thank you for opening up with us and being honest. And sometimes it's easy to talk about the sunny moments and the times when things are going well, but it's definitely harder to open up about things that are making us feel like we're having a really stormy time. So thank you for being willing to talk to us about that, Emily. And Stefan, would you be willing to go now?
Yeah, I think so. It was pretty stormy as well. Just getting some assignments back. They didn't turn out well because I was messing around too much. So that's why it's like I really need to find out some strategies because I'm my whole week has been ruined
Mhm.
as a result. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. So it sounds like a lot of us had, there were maybe some positive aspects to our week, but overall a lot of us had a really kind of discouraging, stormy week with a lot of hard weather. So I want us to think about next just sort of something that happened this week, and we can focus on one or two things that sort of happened this week that are maybe taking over our thoughts a little bit. I know that things have happened for me this week and things that are still happening right now that are sort of taking up all of my attention and all of the space in my mind. And I know that sometimes when we come to a group like this, if we have other thoughts that are going around in our mind, it's harder for us to focus because we're worrying about other things that are going on in our life, and kind of our focus is with those things. So I want you to think about one of those things that is sort of swimming around in your mind right now, to focus on, and we're going to use that for an activity that we're going to do, a mindfulness activity. So that's what we're going to do next, and this mindfulness activity is guided. So I'm going to be using an app, and on the app there's a man's voice who's speaking, and he's sort of going to guide us through the meditation. It's only about 5 minutes, so it's not anything too uncomfortable, but it's called Overthinking, Directing Our Thinking. So the purpose of mindfulness is to become one with the present moment. So instead of thinking to the past or to the future, we want to focus on this moment right now. And many people believe that to achieve this, we have to kind of ignore the thoughts that come into our mind. So if we're trying to focus in class, we want to ignore any other thought that doesn't have to do with class. But it's kind of been proven that that doesn't really work. And it's better for us to sort of acknowledge our feelings and our thoughts, to sit with them, and then to learn how to regulate the flow of them. So we can sit with them for a while, see how they make us feel, and then be willing to sort of let go of them so that we can learn how to regulate our thoughts and we're not getting distracted as often. So I know last week we did a breathing exercise, and I know that for a couple of you that didn't really work. For some of us it did, and for some of us it felt too forced. And where this one is guided, I'm hoping it's not going to feel too forced for us. But the reason I picked this one was because he really allows us to sit with our thoughts rather than trying to do, motivational interviewing or trying to encourage ourselves to believe things that we don't really feel are true. He allows us to sit with the thoughts that we're feeling and then to sort of let go of some of them and maybe regulate the way that we think. And so we're going to use this exercise so that we can focus on today's session. And then this is an exercise that you guys can take home and use when you're feeling distracted from your work or when there's other thoughts going on in your mind when you're trying to focus, and you can do this as well at home. So I want you to think about one thing that happened this week or is still happening that you think may be distracting you from today's session, from focusing, and then we'll use that thought in the exercise. So when you guys are ready, I can start the video.
I don't know, this sounds like kind of a stupid strategy. Like, will it have any effect? I don't know, it seems kind of silly, to be honest.
Okay. Would you like to share what seems stupid about it to you?
Well, I just maybe because of my week, it's just been really stressful, but I don't know, it just doesn't seem like it'll do much, to be honest. And I mean, last week it was somewhat helpful, but this one doesn't sound very good, and I just can't pinpoint it. Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know, but.
So do you think there was something in last week's activity that might have worked for you that you feel is not really happening in this exercise that maybe is not going to be effective for you?
I'm really not sure, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does everybody else feel about this activity?
I
Does
think
anyone
he
else?
needs to shut up and let the activity to happen first and then comment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It's just, once again, it's just been a really stressful week. So I'm sorry if I seem a little off, but I don't like being told to shut up. But you know what? I think I'll just try this time and see how it goes.
Okay. So Julie, what kind of led you to say this sort of comment with Stefan?
Because he needs to at least give it the opportunity. The opportunity is not even given, and he's already complaining.
So it sounds like you're saying you just.
And I don't mean to be rude. Last time I apologized for being rude at you, so I don't mean to be rude right now. I don't want you to be like me last time, complaining for no reason. So. Yeah.
No, you know, no, she has a good point actually. Like maybe I should just kind of let the exercise, out and see how it is. But I'm just a little hesitant is all. So sorry.
And that's okay too. Not everything works for everybody, and I'm sure throughout these few weeks of sessions, there's going to be things that come up that are not going to be comfortable for some of us or things that maybe aren't going to work for us. We're going to be learning a lot of different techniques and exercises, and not everything will work for everybody, and I think it's okay to recognize that we have difference of opinion sometimes. But as Julie said, we want to try to be open to new things, and if it doesn't work for you, then that's okay too. Do you think you feel comfortable sitting in on the exercise?
Yeah, no, I'll give it a try, but I don't know how this is gonna help.
Okay.
I'll try it though.
Okay. So I just want to acknowledge the conflict and how maybe that has made other people in the group feel. How do you guys feel about sort of the conflict that just took place?
I think they
Does-
both have valid points. I mean, he's
Mhm.
uncomfortable with it, and I can understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But I can see her point as well. Just give it a shot and try. And if he's not doesn't want to participate, he doesn't have to either, right? So
Right.
I think they both have good points.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I think this was really good that you guys were sort of able to resolve this conflict and be able to move past it and talk it out. And like I said, it's okay for us to have a difference of opinions, and I think it's important that we talk about these things and not kind of hold them in or try to hold them against other people, but that we're open to talking about these things. So is everybody feeling okay about the exercise, ready to start? You feeling okay?
Somewhat, yeah.
Okay. And like Melissa said, if you don't feel comfortable, or if we're partway through the exercise and you feel that it's not working and you no longer want to participate, you can just wait for the rest of us to finish, and there's no pressure to do anything that feels uncomfortable, okay?
Alright.
So I'm just gonna pull it up here. So like I said, this one is called directing our attention. So I just like for everybody to get in a comfortable position, something that feels comfortable for you. And then we're all just going to close our eyes if you want to. If you want to keep them open, that's okay too. I just find sometimes when we close our eyes, we're able to focus better. But again, whatever feels comfortable.
You're listening to Simple Habit, a daily vacation for your mind.
Hello, my name's Shundo. Thank you for being a part of this series, and I hope you are finding some useful ways to deal with overthinking through mindful techniques. Let's just remind ourselves of some of the ways we can do that. If it feels that all our energy is in our head, then we can refocus our attention on the rest of our body. Take a moment now to notice exactly where you are. Can you feel the air on your skin? Does it feel warm or cold? Can you feel the weight of your body in contact with the ground? Can you pay attention to how you're breathing? Feel your lungs filling and emptying. Notice what thoughts are coming up for you right now. If you want, you can label them, either just by saying thinking, or by noticing if there is a feeling or emotion attached to them. You can say to yourself, positive, neutral, or negative. Then, can you let the thoughts go? There'll be new thoughts along any minute, so we don't have to dwell on these ones. One thing that we can affirm about thoughts when we start paying attention to them is that they're always about the past and the future. Notice how often you rehash past scenarios, as if you were trying to make them turn out differently to how they did. You cannot change what has happened, so can you allow yourself to let it go and not be like a dog gnawing on a bone? Notice how often we're planning for the future. We contemplate so many different outcomes because our minds are so powerful. And yet only one thing is actually going to happen. So can you ask yourself, why are you expending all that energy? When we are quiet and still, we can notice that we are always only paying attention to one thing at a time. If that one thing is our thinking about the past or the future, then we're missing out on what is happening right now in the present moment. We cannot have a thought about the present moment. The thought is a way of processing and wrapping up what has just happened. So if we are always thinking, we are always missing the actual experience of the present moment. Each of us has had an experience of a flow state, a time when we were naturally in tune with what was happening for us, perhaps playing a musical instrument, or writing, or in some athletic activity. So we know it is possible to stay beautifully concentrated in the present moment without the interruption of extraneous thoughts. Cast your mind back and see if you can remember being in such a state one time. And remember how that felt. It's hard to will this flow state to happen. We can practice for it by cultivating our capacity for attention. So how can we bring our attention to the present? By focusing on your physical sensations, all the other things that are going on in your body right now. It takes time to develop the concentration needed to continue doing this. But any time we manage it, it helps us for the next time. It's just like going to the gym. Your muscles slowly get stronger. And if you keep going, you can maintain that strength. Take care.
So, as I talked about before we started the exercise, last week we focused a little bit more on breathing and sort of motivational speech and sort of encouraging words to ourselves, words of affirmation with the exercise that we did last week. And this exercise was more about kind of getting in tune with our thoughts, what we're thinking about, and how those thoughts are making us feel, and even what those thoughts are kind of making us miss out on. So I just kind of want to process this exercise and how it felt for all of us. So first of all, what was your take on the exercise, and kind of what did you experience from this exercise? Does anybody want to share that?
I'll go first. I think that this exercise was really good. I think that, it helps me remember, because I have kids, there's so much that I could miss out on if I'm not present when I'm with them. So it's kind of sad because, for me, just because it reminds me that sometimes I'm not as present as I should be, but I think it's a good exercise that I could use to work on, to be present all the time when I'm, and not even just for the kids, when I'm with schoolwork, and it could help me in all areas of my life.
Right.
So I think it was a good activity.
Okay, so it sounds like for you it was sort of helpful in, being a practical tool that you may be able to use through different aspects of your life when you're feeling that maybe I'm not present enough in this moment and I want to be, but at the same time there's some feeling of sadness with understanding that a lot of us think a lot and our minds are always going, and it's hard for us to sort of sit and be present. So as nice as that would be to achieve, sometimes it's really difficult to do that. Yeah. Does anybody else sort of have feelings that were maybe triggered or brought up when he was asking us to sort of think about the past, think about the future, think about how when we're focusing our energy on that, sometimes we're not as present in the moment? Was that sort of an emotional thing for anybody else?
For me, it was a lot because while I was hearing this gentleman speak, I was very distracted because I'm kind of stressed. With the midterms, I have like 3 midterms, assignment, presentation, so much things. And my husband and I bought a motorcycle a while, like 2 months ago. They got it stolen, like not too long ago. And today we received a really bad news towards the motorcycle. So I was like thinking about the motorcycle. I'm like, basically $3,000 the $3,500 to that went to the garbage, and right now I'm so stressed for because of that. And as I was thinking of the motorcycle, I heard this guy say, "Why are you wasting your energy on that?" So I was like, "What are you saying? Shut up!" Just kidding. But it's just like that's true, because a lot of time, like, why should I be worried or getting stressed about a motorcycle when there is so much things to be worried? It's just a material thing, right? Georgina, her mother passed away. I mean, I'm not going through nothing like that, you know. So no need for me to be wasting my energy on a simple material thing. So I think it was very, very helpful, and that was my takeaway as to no need to be. I focus on the things that it matters at the moment, and know what it doesn't really.
Right. So it sounds like for you the exercise was sort of, you felt almost as if the speaker was speaking right to you and sort of being applicable to a situation that you're facing right now. Did you think that the exercise was at all helpful in sort of taking the thought away, or helping you sort of sit with that thought and then be able to let it go, as he mentioned? Or do you think that that thought just sort of stayed with you through the whole exercise? And
I think it helped me to at least kind of like realize that it's no need to be worried about things that it's not a big deal, material things. So it did help me to kind of like, okay, it helped me to even concentrate to what he was saying, versus focusing on motorcycle. What's a motorcycle?
Right.
Who cares about a motorcycle?
So because he was saying something that sort of related to your situation, it was easier for you to focus than if he was, say, talking about something completely different. You would still be thinking about the motorcycle. Yeah. Okay, just before we move on, I just want to recognize, you brought up a good point that I just want to share. I'm sure that some of you have noticed that Romina's not with us today. She had an accident happen in the family, and a loved one has passed away, so just be thinking about Romina. So I'm sorry that she was unable to make it today, but maybe we could just give her some encouragement if we see her, or next week when she comes back to the group, we can sort of encourage her and just speak to her and welcome her back. So I'm sorry that I forgot to bring that up at the start, but that was a good point. Thank you, Julie. Going back to the exercise, another question that I was sort of thinking about while it was happening that I want to ask is, did anybody like sort of realize anything about themselves, or were any discoveries made through this exercise? Like, I know you said a realization was that, sometimes I'm not as present with my children as I should be. Was anyone else sort of like awakened to something that maybe they feel causes stress in their life, or something that is sort of a distraction to them, that they would like to share about? We could also, if no one can sort of think of a realization that happened, even if we think about what sensations we felt, maybe internally or externally. He talked a lot about a way to distract our mind from what we're thinking about, is to sort of focus on our physical bodies and the sensations and other things that are happening in our body, because a lot of our energy is expelled on our mind and what we're thinking about. So if we focus on other aspects of our body and what's happening there, maybe our focus can shift from what's going on in our mind to what's happening in our body. Was anyone able to relate to that, or did anyone have any sensations in their body or anything that they sort of felt that they feel was helpful in distracting their mind from that thought that we talked about earlier, that's sort of taking over our thoughts?
I thought it was interesting when he talked about feeling the air go in and out of your lungs, because I can't really internally feel that, but just imagining things happening inside of me that I don't necessarily control, volunteer or
voluntarily control.
Yeah, whatever. Where you pick what you're doing, it just happens, and so I think that it can be so easy to just get so wrapped up and concerned with trying to control everything, but a lot of the time we can't, and in the stuff in our body, it just happens anyway. I can't control it, but it works for me, and so oftentimes we don't need to overthink and control everything outside either.
Right, and going with what Bryn said, I know in the video he said, we spend so much energy thinking about the past and the future when one thing's only going to happen, only one thing is going to happen, yet we spend so much time worrying about it. right? So like you said, sometimes some things are beyond our control. And I think that's where stress comes in for a lot of us, as we talked about in the first session, is that there's things that are going to happen that we don't have any control over, and that causes us to stress. So overall, did people feel that that was helpful? Did anyone feel that that was sort of an unhelpful thing that they'll probably never use again? Or do you think that was something that maybe you could use in the future?
I thought that thinking about like your body and stuff was kind of helpful,
Mhm.
but I feel like I wouldn't listen to somebody talking about it because I found it distracting, his voice.
Okay.
And I found him kind of annoying actually.
Okay.
But I feel like just thinking about like what's in front of you is helpful and kind of brings you back to the moment instead of going off 10 steps ahead of where you are kind of. So,
Right.
Yeah.
So you feel that the exercise and what he was saying was helpful, just
Mhm.
not, you probably wouldn't use a guided
Yeah.
sort of meditation. Okay, great. So thank you guys for sharing. Thank you for all being so open and being willing to share your input. We're going to sort of move in now to our goal setting that we did the first week. So when our first session, we all kind of set a goal, our own personal goal of what we want to accomplish in the next 6 weeks over the time that we're doing these sessions. So does everyone remember their goal? Or does anyone need some help sort of remembering? I do have a list of goals if anyone needs help sort of remembering what we talked about. And I know that it's only been a couple of weeks, so we're just sort of moving into the stage where we're going to be working on our goals. So if you haven't been working on them yet, that's okay. Would anybody like me to sort of remind them of their goal?
What was my goal?
Okay. So I'll just go over them all. So for Julie, you said you wanted to be less distracted by your phone and to learn how to study without getting stressed. So just kind of managing your stress better.
How can you be distracted by your phone? I don't understand that. It doesn't make any sense.
It
Okay.
happens.
Yeah.
It happens.
You feel
yeah.
distracted?
I can.
Just like put away your phone. How hard is that?
But doesn't Fortnite distract you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
So isn't that kind of the same idea as like something you enjoy distracting you? So she
Yeah,
goes
but
to your phone.
yeah, but I'm like playing with my friends. You just like can put away your phone. She's probably on like Facebook or something.
You
I'm
know
at least playing with
what?
my
Good for
friends.
you. That's just me.
Well, I don't know. It's kind of silly, but whatever.
Okay, so you feel
You're
that.
calling me silly.
Well, just the whole phone thing is a little silly.
So you feel that sort of a phone is kind of a silly reason to be distracted. That it's just sort of easy to put away your phone and.
Yeah, like I can put away Fortnite whenever I want. Why can't you put away her phone?
Okay, so for those who do feel distracted by their phone, maybe you can speak to that as well. I know a lot of you nodded your head and said that you were you can sort of agree that phones can be distracting. So for those of you who feel that way, maybe you can speak to that, being distracted by your phone.
I guess I would say like sometimes I'll even put a time limit. So I'll say, okay, so 15 minutes I'll spend on Facebook. Then you start watching a video and there's like no timer or anything. And so you can watch like 20 videos and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that was a half an hour.
You see, I'm not the only one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then you can just you can just keep going past the timer. Who's telling you to stop using the timer? Like, come on,
That's
guys.
what I mean. That's why it can be distracting. because
Exactly.
There's another video and another video and another
Oh.
video, right?
Okay,
so
I can kind of see that.
Okay.
And if you're like
Thank-
texting with friends and you
Oh
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, I guess there was the you can
Yeah.
text people too.
Yeah.
I didn't think
Thank
about that.
you. Thank you, Nadia.
Yeah. Like I'm on so many social media platforms and I lead things a lot of the time, like
Yeah.
different challenges and things. So I have to kind of make sure everything's going right with all the people online. It's just like, I have these other responsibilities in a way. So
Mhm.
it's distracting from my work as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it sounds like a lot of us are distracted by their phone, and I know that maybe not be true for you. But as you mentioned the first night, or the first session, Fortnite is something that's distracting for you. So I think we all sort of have distractions. We all have things that sort of take our focus away from our schoolwork or our job or our family or other things that we wish to focus on, but we seem to find ourselves getting distracted. So I have an activity that we're going to do, a second activity. We're not going to have time to do all of it today, but we're going to use that as our homework. So we'll do as much of it as we can in today's session, and then we'll take the rest home. So based on our goals that we set the first week, I can finish reading those out, and then we can move on to the activity. So Julie, as I said, was the distraction by the phone. For Bryn, yours was that you want to be able to manage your time better, and you want to be motivated enough to finish assignments at least 24 hours before they're due.
Oh, I always do that.
You do?
Yeah,
That's
I'm usually
awesome.
really good with that.
Good.
Yeah.
So maybe you can give
So-
some insight into how that's possible and how you're able to achieve that, and maybe that would be helpful for them.
Yeah, I'm actually really good at that, so.
That's awesome.
Would you like to share with us kind of what skills you use or what tools you use that kind of help you to achieve that goal? Because I know for a lot of people, we're procrastinators. We tend to wait till last minute to do things. So maybe you would like to share.
I'm
how
just
you
like
achieve that?
naturally good at it. Like it's just kind of I'm really not sure what to tell you. But well, I guess like having like a list of when you want to get it done,
Mhm.
and then like sticking to that, looking at that every single day. But I'm actually really good at it. So yeah.
Yeah, and we're gonna go over some creating your schedules and
Mhm.
prioritizing
So I
your
can
needs
help
and
with that.
stuff.
So.
Oh, thanks.
Cool.
Mr.
So if you
Perfect.
What was his goal?
Stefan's goal. You're just good at everything. So Stefan's goal was to prioritize what is important.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
And
So it
Yeah.
seems like schoolwork has sort of been prioritized for you, and you're
Yeah.
able to sort of prioritize that and get it done in time.
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay, so maybe we can talk about that when we're writing our schedules as well, and you can sort of help us with how to manage our time better. Emily, you mentioned time management. You want to write a schedule and you want to be able to stick to it, and you want to not be as much of a perfectionist with your schoolwork. And I know you mentioned that in the beginning with your kind of Hale week, you said that you got a mark that wasn't to your standard and that sort of let you, brought you down. So that was one of your goals as well, to not be as much of a perfectionist. And Melissa, your goal was to create a weekly schedule to help balance family, work, self-care, and school time. So, everyone's goals sort of relate in some aspect to prioritizing what's important, managing our time so that we can get those priorities and those needs met and those things done in time, and also being distracted. So as the exercise we focused on earlier was sort of about being distracted, a schedule may help us kind of, realize what we have to get done and not be so distracted by our thoughts. So I have printed out schedules for everybody, and I printed out a priority sheet for everybody.
Sorry.
So you can take these home and finish them this week. So I've created a list, and it's a to-do list, so to prioritize our duties. So for every day, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you're going to write what you have to get done that day. So think about the week ahead. On each of these days, what things need to get done that day, and then you're going to write them in order of priority. So for today, just because we don't have time to do it all, we're going to just focus on Sunday, the first day. So think about upcoming Sunday, what things you're going to need to get done that day, and then write them out in order of priority. And then we're going to write that into our schedule. So the schedule is double-sided. So each day starts out at 7 a.m. and ends on the back at 10 p.m. I know a lot of us also in the first week we talked about self-care. We talked about making sure we take time to get enough sleep, to take care of ourselves, because those are often things that can cause us stress as well, which is why I made the schedule from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. so that we all get 9 hours of rest or just doing things that don't feel like a duty. And that is the amount of sleep that an adult is supposed to get every night is 9 hours to function properly. So we're going to follow our schedule that way. So the time slots are all written here. So Sunday at 7 a.m. you can write out what things you're going to do between 7 and 8. And then at 8 a.m. you're going to write out what things you can do between 8 and 9. And you're going to write them out in order of priority. And then when you flip it this way, sorry, they kind of printed weird, so it doesn't go like this. You have to flip it the other way. You have the rest of the times. So if you don't have something to put into every time slot, you can mark that time as free time, and then later if you think of something, you can fill it in. And it's okay to have time throughout the day where we're not doing a duty and where we're just taking time for ourselves. So we're going to fill those in. I'm going to do it as well. So I'll just pass one of each sheet out, if you wouldn't mind passing those around. I think you might have some of the priority sheets as well, but hopefully everyone gets one of each. And then we're just going to fill out Sunday as much as we can get done before we close.
You know what I was supposed to say. Of course, thank you. You need these ones?
Oh, oops, any one of those actually.
Oh.
My bad.
So did everyone
Thank you.
get a priority sheet? Yes? Okay, and a schedule. So we can just sort of work on this independently. You can talk amongst yourselves if you wish. We'll just do this for a couple of minutes and then we'll have our wrap up. And if anyone has any questions or concerns, we can certainly answer questions for you. So it might be useful to fill out the prioritizing sheet first, your duties, and then put it in your schedule. But do it however you feel comfortable.
What are you guys writing for Monday?
I think we're starting with Sunday.
Okay. Well, what are you writing for Monday?
My exams, my midterms.
You have to study for your midterms.
Yeah, I think every day that's gonna be literally my
Study.
priority.
Okay.
Study, assignments,
And actually go to class.
and go to class.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one.
Hmm. Do you have anything that needs to be done Monday, or are you just kind of trying to figure out what needs to be done, what you should be doing?
I don't know, to be honest. Like I gotta think about it a little bit, but
Okay.
yeah, like I want one night just to play video games.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that seems reasonable, and
Mhm.
like you mentioned, you need that time to sort of be with your friends. So I think it's important that you schedule that into your schedule. That
Would
you
that
make
be
sure
like a self-care type thing? Do you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
And like I said, it's good to have free time. It's good to have time that we take care of ourselves and do things that we love and that are important to us.
Right.
So I think that the importance of the schedule is making sure that we're marking all of those things in. So if we're taking time to shower or taking time to hang out with our friends or whatever, make sure you're scheduling all of that in as well. Not just
Okay.
your duties, but what things you want to accomplish in that day.
Okay, I think this is gonna be a good idea then, this prioritizing list.
Okay, good. So if you're having a hard time with one particular day, you can maybe just fill in whatever you can think of in the moment, and then
Yeah.
you can fill that in throughout the week.
Yeah.
Because this will be our homework, so we won't have to bring this back until next week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And even guys, things as simple as like when you're gonna cook, when you're gonna eat, those things are important to add as well. You may not be able to fit them on your prioritizing sheet, but just making sure you're scheduling all of that in so that you can stick to like sort of an hourly basis of what you're doing. And yeah, if you feel that on Sunday you're gonna be sleeping till 10 a.m., then you can just write sleep for the first few slots. It doesn't necessarily have to be a duty specifically. Right, so we only have a couple of minutes left, so it's okay if you didn't get Sunday filled out, but I want you guys to take these schedules home, and I want you to, just sort of fill out the priority sheet of what you need to get done this week. So, it's up to you when you want to do it. I encourage, when you wake up in the morning, before you start your day, write down everything that needs to be done that day, and then schedule that into your schedule, what you're going to do by the hour. And then just sort of, you can fold this up or take it in your backpack, your purse, and just sort of carry it around with you so you're staying on track of what needs to get done. And just tick off those things. You know, it's okay to reward ourselves and be encouraging to ourselves. So tick off those things, maybe treat yourself if, you know, at the end of the day you've accomplished even 50% of what you wanted to accomplish that day. That's an accomplishment, right? So rather than looking at what we didn't get done, it's important to look at what we did get done and then encourage and reward ourselves for those things. So if that means when you're done your day, kind of spending a couple hours playing Fortnite with your friends or having a hot shower or whatever, you know, is sort of a reward to you, you can do that. I also encourage maybe not to add too many things into your schedule because you don't want to get overwhelmed and then feel bad when you don't get those things done. So try to think realistically about what can I actually get done today, and then fill that into your schedule. So like I said, if 4 hours of your day are going to be sleeping and you know that realistically that's what you're going to do, then you need to make sure that in the other time you fit in what you need to get done. But just don't try to overwhelm yourself with too many things, if that makes sense. Does anyone else have any sort of comments or things that they'd like to add that would be helpful for people when trying to go through this activity? Maybe someone who's made a schedule before, things that have worked, things that haven't.
Usually when I do this, I usually always do my schedule weekly, and every time I accomplish something, I just kind of scratch it in.
Yeah.
And I make sure I do something for myself every time I accomplish something fun.
Right.
Or
yeah.
give myself a treat or something.
Right. Fun
Doesn't
can be a
always
reward.
work. I don't always, and sometimes I know that it's okay if I don't accomplish every single thing that I have for that day.
Right.
But I make sure to write it for the next day, so I make to know that I have to finish it.
Right. Okay. Great. I think that's a good thing. And sometimes the things that distract us maybe are good rewards for us. Things that would normally take us away from our work. When we get our work done, then we can reward ourselves with those things. So that's a good idea, Julie. Anybody else want to share anything about scheduling? Anything they think might be helpful? No? Okay. So like I said, we're going to fill out our schedule this week and then bring it back next week. If you don't get everything done, or if your schedule looks sort of messy, or some days are left blank, or that's okay. I still encourage you guys to bring it back and we can sort of talk about it next week and see how we did with our homework. So would anybody else like to share anything before we close our session today? Any feelings, any thoughts?
No, I think this is a good idea.
You think it's a good
I'll
idea?
fill it out, yeah.
Okay, great. Anybody else? Anything else they want to share?
Thank you for this.
You're welcome. All right. Well, it was a pleasure having you guys today, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Good
Whew, I'm so glad that's done.
How do you feel?
I don't know. I feel like with the conflicts, I definitely could have.
No, I
The
think
sun's
it's
right in
good.
your face. I definitely could have handled them better. It just kind of throws you off guard. Right? You're like, what is it?
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure it wasn't just me trying to resolve it. That I was like, what do
Yeah, you
people
opened it
think?
up.
Or you know, you guys kind of, and just let you guys sort of figure it out before I jump right in and was like, well, here's a rule, so stop. You know.
I have a friend like that though who does I'm really good at that, so
Oh,
and
yeah?
I was just imitating him. It was so natural.
Yeah, that was so funny.
Like he'll be like, oh, I know it's part of the thing, but
It would
it's
have
like,
been so much
You just
funnier.
kept saying you're like, I'm just really good at it. I don't really know what
Yeah,
to say to you. I'm just
You
amazing.
know, it's like we were in the same class and I didn't do too well on an assignment. He got a better mark. I was like, oh, I only got a 65 or whatever. He's like, oh, I got an 80. So it's like,
What?
Okay.
all right. So yeah, I'm actually really good at this topic. I don't care.
Yeah, I know. It's not what I want to hear right
Yeah,
now. Thank you.
shut up. And so it was like, oh, it's a perfect chance to
Yeah,
So
one
yeah.
up.
helping you try to understand the assignment,
Yeah.
where you went wrong and what
Yeah.
if
Mhm.
right?
Just so,
And I appreciate
Yeah,
that you
good.
guys your character was kind of kept going with last week because you guys were sort of
Yeah.
being the harder ones last week as well. So it's good that you.
I was, but
Yeah,
I
you
didn't
were
wanna
quiet
share.
last week too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any suggestions from anybody?
I like
Ways of
it.
improvement.
I like everything you I like that you acknowledge Romina not being here. That was good. Really good.
I should have
Yeah.
done that at the start.
no,
but-
it doesn't matter.
No,
I
you
don't-
acknowledge that was
Mhm.
important. Sorry
Yeah.
if I interrupted you, but
No, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, that was really good. The only comment that I will say,
Mhm.
and you know this,
Talk too much.
no,
Oh.
well, maybe.
Very
What I didn't say.
Very simple.
But I was just slow down a bit because you
Right.
tend to speak
Yeah.
way too fast, and you know this.
Yeah.
This is not new.
Yeah,
to
that's
me.
my trouble.
And I mean, I know that I have an accent, and in my own language, I speak really fast.
Yeah.
And you probably have noticed that in English too. But yeah, they maybe just speak a bit slower,
Right.
and just maybe speak a less. I was gonna speak in Spanish. Maybe just a less.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Because
Like
a
less
lot of time
detail,
you
or-
were giving a lot of explanations.
Right.
And
yeah, like I think if I can just feed off of what
Yeah.
she's saying is like you just every time one of us would say something you'd comment,
Mhm.
which is I mean maybe
It's-
just a little less of
Right.
that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But like I felt like you really knew your staff
Yes.
for this.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
for whatever your session was supposed to be, like you
Mhm.
really knew your
Yes,
staff.
you were very prepared.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And even taking off of that, then like when you introduce things,
Mhm.
you like kind of covered all the angles of like explaining it. If people don't want to do it, like there's freedom for that, but also like this is why it's good, and
Uh-huh.
so like just getting all the kind of
Yeah.
background information was actually I thought helpful, like to
Yeah.
make it more comfortable.
Yeah, I
So,
agree.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
you seem to be very engaged. Like it was very like your active listening skills and all that.
Mhm.
Like
Well, yeah.
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 That's true.
Also, was there a review of the homework from last week? Or?
No, I didn't. I
Okay.
don't think I did that.
What
no.
was the homework?
Positive affirmations.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't remember to do that. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
But
I definitely should have put that in.
But you did a lot of like with the activities. I think in a way that was
Yeah.
it kind of covers it. In a way you I felt like you probably did it in a way, you know. That
I more reviewed the activity she did last week. I didn't talk about the homework.
Yeah.
The breathing exercise.
Yeah, but I also think she also like brought in like two strategies. One with the app one that
Meditation?
you did,
Yeah.
and then even
Mhm.
this. Like you've given us two tools that we can go home with
Mhm.
and use
Mhm.
towards
Mhm.
less stress.
Mhm.
In,
Which I
right?
think was important in the working stage.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because I didn't like one of them, so I can use the other, which I said I liked.
And like the purpose is to get to our goals, right?
But you're just
Which
perfect.
yeah.
You're just
So
perfect
good.
anyway. You don't need either.
Mr. Perfect. By the way, I'm so sorry for saying shut up.
No,
I was
that's
like,
fine.
I was like, when I say shut up, I was like,
I think
oh
you
my
should
God.
just shut up.
Oh my God, did I actually
didn't
tell
have
him to
control
shut
of
up?
No, but it's a bit like just I get that.
Yeah.
No problem. It was funny.
I mean, that was all acting.
Of course.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
Because I said I was gonna be rude. Ooh, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But those are things that usually happens. I mean, in a group, you
Yeah, for
never
sure.
know what's gonna come.
Yeah.
You know, people could be like swearing to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at this stage, people are probably comfortable enough to like be honest
Like, oh,
with
this
each
is
other.
stupid. I'm sure people would do that in a regular group.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
I would say probably my biggest downfall was like over explaining, you know.
But it's
just
a small
talking
fix.
too much. Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
but
small.
yeah, exactly. I
That's
completely
always my
agree.
And everyone's different too. Like some
Yeah.
people will be more long-winded, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Some people will be maybe not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some people might appreciate that much
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And some of the people are like, I know what I need to do. You don't need to keep explaining. Yeah, for sure.
And that's okay.
Any other criticisms or comments? Good job.
Yeah.
Thank you, Miss.
We're good. Okay.
Yeah.
We can go to class.
Is this? I don't want to.
What time is it?
5:35.
Ah,
Well, thank you
Just
guys
in
for
time.
making it